Unbound, Worlds Apart by Alien Pixel Studios is a little indie platformer with some Metroidvania elements plus a small but very cool gameplay twist. I played the demo during a Steam Game Fest, I think last year, and then bought the game on release. I completed it 100% on stream, and due to me being busy with two multiple hour-long lore videos about Elrond from The Lord of the Rings on my main channel, I had no time to make a review yet. So I'm a bit late with it, but better late than never. I also try to avoid major spoilers. Also, there is a section in the game with big spiders attacking you in the darkness, which I won't show, so if you have arachnophobia, maybe not the game for you. The game can be a bit creepy and dark at times. I think the first thing to address is what kind of game this is. Unbound Worlds Apart is often compared to Hollow Knight or the Ori games, but this might be a bit misleading. Hollow Knight and Ori both also have platforming, but are much more Metroidvania games. Unbound Worlds Apart is primarily a relatively challenging platformer with a few Metroidvania elements and some puzzles. There is, for example, no combat, no gear, no stats as in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You only can unlock a few additional and fairly traditional movement abilities that allow you to access areas on the map that you could not access before without the new movement abilities, like for example a wall jump. On top of that, there's a map and a connected world, so you can go back to the start, which is unusual for platformers, I guess, and more in the realm of Metroidvania. There's also fast travel in this context as little quality of life feature, but if you expect a classic Metroidvania game, you probably will be disappointed. In its core, Unbound is a platformer and has, as mentioned, an interesting twist which makes this game, in my opinion, really great. The so-called portals. By pressing L1 or LB, you can open a bubble around your character, and depending on the level you are in, it changes core elements of the level inside it. From a game design perspective, it adds elements and abilities to the game that are not part of its core game mechanics. For example, in one level, opening the portal bubble changes the level structure. Suddenly, inside the bubble, there appears a platform you can now jump on, but outside of it, it's not there. This is one of the more simple examples. There's also my favorite effect where inside the bubble, gravity becomes inverted, and it's absolutely awesome. Suddenly, the game plays completely different. However, you can't select these portal effects or change them. One specific portal type is always part of a specific level section, and there are around 10 different effects. There are also sections where you can't open portals at all, so this feature is not available there. But in my opinion, this is not a problem because the portal types are perfectly implemented into the level design, and when they are not available, it also fits the level sections perfectly. The concept is there to give you variety inside a section, not to give you 10 extra abilities. And I have to say, the level design is really good and creative in this regard. Definitely the star of the game. The platforming itself is challenging too, and some of the puzzles also require a bit of thinking, sometimes outside of the box. Two optional things I had to look up because they were just a bit too outside of the box for me, but when I saw the solution, I liked it. I personally enjoyed the difficulty a lot, but of course this is very subjective. Platforming experts might find it too easy, laughing at me for calling it challenging, and while others might find it too difficult. I'm also not that great at platforming. What the game does well in this context, the most difficult sections are very often optional, so you can complete the game and don't need to master those difficult sections. But for 100%, you of course need those sections too. I for sure was stuck at some of them for quite some time, grinding the muscle memory. Also, the lack of an ability might make a section more or less difficult in comparison to when you get that ability later. I also have to point out how well Unbound controls. For example, if you have to make tight jumps, the game gives you some so-called coyote time. That is a small time window that allows you to still jump and not fall after passing over the ledge, even if you are already in the air with your character. Like Coyote from the cartoon show Roadrunner, who also sometimes stands in the air for a moment before falling. As a result, you often have some wriggle room when it comes to precision, though some difficult sections also might even require using coyote time to even make the jump without other abilities. I also think the game utilizes in parts the so-called regrabbing mechanic known from Super Mario World, though it is not that important in Unbound, I think. What it does is that holding or pressing the jump button again while in the air slows your fall speed, which increases air time. You can see the slight difference here. I just hold jump while falling. It gives you additional control over Soli, the protagonist, while in the air, which really works well, but this mechanic is of course not used to its full potential in the game, as in for example some Kaizo Mario ROM hacks that are basically mods and custom levels for Super Mario World, usually very difficult. There is no sprint button as in Super Mario though. I guess you always sprint, but with an analog stick you can walk slow, though I never needed this. All those details make the game control very well from my perspective though. The visuals and art design of the game are in my opinion also great and quite cute. Most of the time it's clear what is background and what foreground. The story work too, though I guess most people won't play it for the story. It's not on the level of for example Ori, but nice to have for a cute indie platformer, and it even has 2 endings. The story has a somewhat darker tone to it though, at least in relation to its cute art style. The dialogues are not voiced, which was not really a problem, but that would have been a nice addition. Of course, the studio behind this indie game is also very small, and it was probably not possible with their budget. Technically, I encountered very few bugs and none were game breaking. I had one little soft lock which required quitting to the main menu and continue, but due to the game being very generous with checkpoints, it was not a problem and might be fixed by now. I played on PC with a controller, and loading times once the game was loaded were quite short, though it was not installed on my SSD. On PC, the game uses your Windows desktop refresh rate as frame limit, so if you have the monitor for it, you can play at high frame rates. I only tested it with 144Hz and 144 FPS and 120Hz and 120 FPS. You can also rebind controls relatively freely and play the game with D-pad or analog stick. For keyboard you can also rebind the directional inputs, but not for controller as far as I know. All this now sounds quite positive, and this is also my overall impression of the game, but I have a few things to criticize as well. The game has bosses, and what I like is that they usually don't overstay their welcome, but they are often not that interesting. That does not mean bad, but if you expect mind-blowing boss fights, you won't get them here. But at least you kill them often in 3 hits instead of, let's say, 9, so the fights don't take that long and end before starting to get boring or annoying. Only the first phase of the final boss I didn't really like, though overall it was a cool boss fight. Beyond that, I think the bosses worked out, but don't expect too much of them. The highlight is the platforming itself and the level design in combination with the game's portal mechanic. My biggest criticism though is that the portal ability always needs 2 button presses to reopen the portal. The button is a toggle for most portal types. In some cases the bubble follows you, but often it stays where you open it. That means you press 1 time to open it and 1 time to close it. And for some sections and puzzles this makes perfect sense and must be like this, but there are also sections that require closing and opening portals again, so pressing 2 times very fast and often in succession with some precision. I'm talking about reopening them in a fraction of a second. This can become really exhausting for the finger on the L1 button and also a bit annoying to play, especially if you fail because you pressed too slow or mashed too fast and pressed it 3 times instead of 2 times. A simple solution would be adding an additional button called Reset Portal that closes the portal and opens it in 1 button press. And on the controller there are enough unused buttons left too, like L2/LT. This would maybe remove the need of keeping track of if a portal is opened already or not, but would be more enjoyable, at least from my perspective. But don't worry, this is mostly a problem in some tough optional sections. Especially in one, you need to really mash the portal button a bit for a prolonged time, and I found that very unpleasant to play, so I moved the portal button to square/X. I did this a few times throughout my playthrough, though it messed with my muscle memory, so I changed it back after these sections again. Not a big deal, but unnecessary in my opinion. But that's basically it for negative points I had, and to be honest, it's really not that much. Overall, I had an absolute blast with this game and would fully recommend it to everyone who is interested in platforming with a character that looks distantly like Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. For me, it was challenging, but in a fun way. For example, I was stuck in one optional section for over an hour, but I still enjoyed my time with it, and that is a huge compliment. But keep in mind, I like challenging games and can be quite patient if I feel it's my own fault when I die, which was the case here. Some people might find the game frustrating in contrast. But keep in mind, there is a free demo available, which is also slightly different from the actual game. So if you are interested, definitely check the demo if possible. The playtime to complete it was around 9 to 12 hours, I would estimate, though it took me longer to get 100%, and it costs around €20, $20 or £17, so not a full price game. For me, it was definitely worth it. It is available on PC, for Steam, GOG and Epic Games Store and the Nintendo Switch. It will be released on PlayStation and Xbox too, I think 9th and 11th of February 2022. From my side, it's a full recommendation. Thank you for watching. Finally, a video not about Battlefield. I've written this review quite some time ago, but other things came in the way as said. I hope you like this shorter review, would love some feedback. I know my content is better when I can write a script, which I try to do more often again here on my second channel, but that of course also eats more time. A full playthrough of Unbound Worlds Apart you can also find on my YouTube stream archive channel. Feel free to press the like button here, leave a comment and maybe subscribe. If you like Lord of the Rings lore, maybe check my main channel too. There are also many old gaming related videos of mine there, which you can also find in playlists here on this channel. For those new, I recently split my channel into two. The main channel is now Tolkien and Lord of the Rings lore videos, and this here is the channel for my gaming content. I also stream 1 or 2 times a week on Twitch, where we usually play games, sometimes those I want to review. Soul Calibur 6, Tekken 7, Learning Age of Empires 7 and maybe Sable are on my list too. I also want to try replaying the unpatched version of Dark Souls 1 on the PlayStation 3 and look for some differences. Might be interesting. Again, thank you people for watching and goodbye.